Welcome to another episode of Ask Tanya. I absolutely love receiving questions from all you guys, and I'm going to do another video to answer another question that I got asked last night by one of my VIPs. So the question was more to get my opinion on something, and that is, what is my opinion on activity trackers? Now, activity trackers are these little things that are having a huge moment right now, such as Fitbits. They're those things that you kind of wear on your wrist, and apparently they track calories, calorie burn, sleep. Some of them even tell you when you've got a text or an email. They're probably going to be able to start telling you how many calories are in your food at some point from just taking a picture of them. Maybe even start feeding you. I don't know. They seem to be able to do everything, and the way that the media advertises them makes them sound amazing, like so much fun. These things, like they track your steps, your distance, or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you what my opinion is on activity trackers. I myself have a polar heart rate monitor. Now, the reason why I have a polar heart rate monitor is just to track my heart rate during a workout, to know what heart rate zone I am working within, and I kind of like to see how many calories I've burned during that session. Now, while I'm on the subject of calorie burn, I do believe that the only accurate representation of how many calories you've burned is if you're wearing a chest strap. Now, the one that I do have does have a chest strap, so it does actually have access straight to my heartbeat, and that is the only way that it's a really more accurate representation of how many calories you've burned. If it's taking a calorie burn through your wrist, as far as I know, the ones on the market at the moment are not an accurate representation of how many calories you've actually burned. So on to my opinion of activity trackers, apart from the one that I use for those two reasons. But the ones that have all the bells and whistles, I think that they are good for two reasons and two types of people. Other than that, I think that they're kind of just hyped up and they are just fun. Basically, the main things that you can track on them, such as your calorie burn, your steps, and your sleep. Calorie burn, not accurate. You need to wear a chest strap, so make sure it's got a chest strap. Sleep, you can download a free app on your phone, and that will track your sleep. And steps, if you have an iPhone, I'm not sure about other Android phones, but if you have an iPhone, there's a health app built in on it, and that tracks your steps. And most of us these days don't go anywhere without our phones, so you can do all the things that these activity trackers do for free. Two reasons that I believe activity trackers are good for. Number one, people who are very sedentary already, which means that they don't do much exercise, they don't do much activity, they maybe work at an office job and they're sat at a desk all day and they're just not very active. So the reason why these activity trackers or stepping trackers can be good for people that fall within that category is because they say that you should aim to get an average of 10,000 steps per day. Now, having an activity tracker on your wrist that kind of says to you, okay, you've only done 6,000 steps today, that is going to then motivate that sedentary person to then think, oh, okay then, well, I should go for a walk during my lunch break, and then when I get home from work, I'm going to go for a walk. So it's awesome for helping more sedentary people who don't really have exercise as a part of their daily schedule to get more steps and more activity in, to be more active and to burn some more energy. So that was reason number one. Reason number two is a little bit more kind of scientific and geeky, but I do believe that activity trackers or tracking your steps is awesome for when you are in a calorie deficit. Now, that is a lot of people who are always trying to lose weight and they seem to be in a calorie deficit, but you need to be doing this in a way that you're actually tracking your calorie deficit, so you've got a way of measuring like things, whether it's your exercise, your steps, your calories, everything like that. So if you are in a program such as the one that, ladies come to me to work in, to lose weight and to tone up, they're in a calorie deficit. They're in a mild to moderate calorie deficit. And what happens when you're in a calorie deficit is your energy expenditure will naturally slow down. So being able to track your steps and your activity is an awesome way of kind of seeing, okay, when you're at maintenance calories, you've got more energy, and you might on average do like 8,000 to 10,000 steps per day. This is just kind of hypothetically speaking. And then when you're in a calorie deficit, you might not realize it unless you've got something to measure it, but your steps might fall by a few thousand. Now, that falls into the category of NEAT, N-E-A-T, which stands for non-activity energy thermogenesis. I always forget the last word. Non-activity energy thermogenics, something like that. What that means is basically the energy that you expend doing non-activity related things such as breathing, digesting food, stepping, fidgeting, those people that kind of, like fidget a lot or sit there and like tap their foot on the floor, that's all NEAT. And when you're in a calorie deficit and you don't have the usual energy that you would have if you were eating at maintenance, then your energy naturally decreases because it's your body's way of wanting to remain in homeostasis and have the energy for all the other things that your body needs to do. So those kind of things start to fall off. You start to step less, you start to fidget less, you start to move less, just naturally. And that decreases your metabolic rate and the energy that you burn. So having an activity tracker for when you're in a calorie deficit is a really interesting way of just measuring and tracking your NEAT, just to see how many less steps that you're doing during that time. And then you can use it in the same way as step one people do, just looking at it and seeing, oh wow, okay, then my steps are 2,000, 3,000 less than what they usually are. I'm going to go for a walk during my lunch break, or a walk when I get home from work, or maybe even walk to work. So they are, that's my opinions on activity trackers and how I believe that they are useless for some people and they can be very useful for others. So I hope that's been helpful, and please do get in touch with any other questions that I can answer for the next Ask Tanya episode.